Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com, dwyervip.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. Now let's get a little bit behind the glass on boxing. There's a great article from the Los Angeles Times, right? It was released either late yesterday or a little bit before that. And it involves an interview of Darnell Boone, boxing's ultimate litmus test. Right? Now, don't be fooled by Darnell Boone's 27% knockout ratio. Understand, Darnell Boone has lost half of his fights because he insists on fighting the best. There are very few guys in the sport who have fought the level of opposition that Darnell Boone has fought. Right? He's lost half of his fights. So understand, the 27% KO ratio means of the fights he wins about half of them by knockout. But just understand who Darnell Boone is. He knocked out Adonis Stevenson, who currently holds a share of the light heavyweight title. He knocked down Sergey Kovalev, who currently holds a share of the light heavyweight title. And he knocked down Andre Ward, who of course dominated the 168-pound weight class and is now at light heavyweight. Understand that right now, Darnell Boone is the sparring partner for Gennady Golovkin. Right? There are few people in boxing who can talk about and compare Adonis Stevenson, Andre Ward, Sergey Kovalev, and Golovkin, who have actually been in the ring with them. Now, he's interesting. He believes that Triple G is the best, right? He concedes that Andre Ward is a better boxer than Triple G. But unlike the Jim Lampley feel-goodism on HBO whenever they talk about Andre, understand that Darnell Boone looked at Ward's last fight, right? And here's what he had to say. I like Ward, but if he can't shake off that rust, it looked like something was missing. He was flat-footed. He was breathing heavy. I don't know if it's the added weight or the layoff, but whatever. They've got to get it under control. I think he needs 2 or 3 more fights before Kovalev. I'm keeping it 100. That fight, this year, dangerous. If Kovalev hits him with those shots he usually hits guys with, it could be an early night. Right? Now look, I know many of you follow Jim Lampley, right? And I know Lampley has had shows like The Fight Game where he supposedly is, taking on boxing. And I know Lampley has strong opinions about people like Floyd Mayweather, etc. Right? Now, while I respect and admire Jim Lampley, right, I think he does a great job on play-by-play, when it comes to making a bet, when I want a real opinion, I cannot rely on an employee of a media outlet that has a contract with one of the fighters. Right? I just can't. I get the feeling if Andre Ward was hit by a car, Jim Lampley would say, Ward looked great. Right? Flying to the pavement and then getting up. Right? Put another way, I trust Darnell Boone more than I trust Jim Lampley when it comes to discussing fighters who have contracts with HBO. Right? Now, let me say this about Triple G. It's really a tribute to Triple G that Triple G has guys like Darnell Boone as sparring partners. It might surprise some people to learn that one of the people he sparred with in the past was Sergey Kovalev. Right? One of the big secrets of Triple G's success is his level of preparation. A lot of people, including Sergey Kovalev, could not work long term with Abel Sanchez. Right? I don't think I'd want to work long term with Abel Sanchez. Triple G's trainer. Understand, Triple G's trainer, according to folklore, is a guy who really does expect you to be fully dedicated to the sport of boxing. This is different than Freddie Roach, where Manny Pacquiao could be, running for office in the Philippines. He could be cutting record albums and stuff like that. When it comes time to a fight, Manny will then show up in Los Angeles and the two guys will get into business. Right? Understand, Triple G doesn't train in LA. You don't get to hit the club after sparring. Right? You're not at all of the fine restaurants and stuff like that, when you're not in the gym. No. Triple G trains in a place called Big Bear, which really is in the middle of nowhere. Right? Triple G is not living the Manny Pacquiao life. Right? Interviews, Jimmy Kimmel, basketball, entourage. No, this is the Spartan old school boxing existence. Well, let me say this. I just don't see how his opponent Dominic Wade goes the distance in this fight. And I know Wade is an unbeaten fighter. Right? I know Wade had a decorated amateur career. Right? But I'm one of those who thought he lost his last fight to Sam Solomon. Officially, he won it by split decision. This is one of those boxing fights where I'll politely disagree with the powers that be. I would have given it to the other guy. But more importantly, Wade's an outside fighter. He likes to fight you from distance. As a general rule of thumb, outside fighters get blown out by Golovkin. Blown out. Golovkin wants you outside. Right? Golovkin is that banger. Right? KO artist. Look at the ratio. Who doesn't want you up close. He wants you a little bit away from him. You've heard me here online use the phrase mid-range hooker. In my opinion, Golovkin is really a mid to long range hooker. Right? The kind of fighter who would give him a hard time style-wise to me would be a Marvin Hagler, a guy who likes to fight at short range. Right? A guy who gets inside and makes it uncomfortable for him. Right? In a couple of years, if Errol Spence keeps going on the path he's going, right? Dominance, slowly increasing the quality of his competition. In a couple of years, we might end up with a fight of Errol Spence against Golovkin, right? Where Spence has much more experience than he has now. That's going to be an interesting fight. Right? Because again, the kind of guy who gives Golovkin's problems is a guy who is not exposed outside, where Golovkin can't extend his arms. Right? A guy who's going to come inside and who still has the power inside. That's not Wade. You're going to see a guy who likes to operate from distance. Folks, I don't care that Wade has a greater than 60% KO percentage. He doesn't hit remotely as hard as Golovkin. Look at all the Golovkin highlights out there. Most of them have Golovkin from distance, softening up a guy. right? When you look at how Golovkin throws punches, they're coming from weird angles. He seems to have a little bit of a curve on his punches. It's not straight. This isn't a Vladimir Klitschko straight right hand. No, his punches tend to have a little bit of a curve on them, right? He's leaning his whole body into it. He's extending his hands. Think about how he's developed his game. He's developed a jab to get you outside of the pocket, because that's where he wants you. Well, guess what? That's Wade's comfort zone. That's where Wade is going to be. So I'm expecting Wade to get KO'd for the first time in his career. Right? I'm expecting Golovkin to be able to stalk this guy. Wade doesn't strike me as a guy who has one-punch knockout power. Right? So I think what we're going to have is Wade outside thinking he's safe, when that's exactly where Golovkin wants you to be, to have a shootout. Right? As I've said, the dodgiest Golovkin fight I've seen is the Kasim Uma fight, where Uma gets right here on Golovkin. Golovkin doesn't quite know what to do. Right? But when you're outside on Golovkin, that's when he feasts on you. There's an amateur video here online of Golovkin's amateur fight against Lucien Bute. That's right, that Lucien Bute. Right now, Bute is about as slick as you can get for an outside fighter, right? Southpaw. Right? You know, has a great jab, knows how to move. If you look at that film, you're going to see it's when Bute, a master boxer, is outside, that he runs into trouble with Golovkin. Right? Bute's actually winning that fight. You know how it ends, folks. I don't have to tell you. Right? Golovkin eventually lands. Now, I don't consider Wade to be as good as Bute. Right? I believe you know how this fight ends. I believe this fight ends by KO. So here, we're going to get bold. We're going to get bold here. Right? I know the odds on Golovkin aren't worth it right now. They really aren't. So if you're going to bet this fight, and keep in mind, both guys are unbeaten. The way I would bet it is I would not take Golovkin to win the fight. I'd just take Golovkin by KO. And no hedge. Right? Golovkin is so dominant. In my opinion, he has the right kind of sparring partners. Darnell Boone, I don't care what the record is. Right? Dude who's been in the ring with countless guys. Right? Brian Vera, Dinah Davis, Marco Antonio Parabin. Right? Are just three of the names on, Boone's resume. Understand, Boone has fought Kovalev twice. Right? Twice. Right? The first time, I believe it's a split decision. Right? I believe Triple G has the right kind of guys in his camp. I think he's developed his game the right way. I just don't see how Darnell Boone has enough, unbeaten or not, to keep Triple G off of him. I'm expecting a KO. I like Triple G here. By KO, we'll fly naked. No hedge on this one. Let's see what happens. That's how I see it. Let me hear from you. Leave your comments for me here online. Visit us at gamblersadvisory.com. Thanks for stopping by.